Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the sixth episode of the Machine Shop. Welcome back. As you could see on the screen here, I have my sixth guest with me, and he goes by the name of Paul Sutt. Paul, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Paul is a good friend of mine. He's a fellow cosplayer. He's a sword maker. He's an actor. He's done quite a bit in his life. So we're going to kind of go through how he got started into his creative processes. We're going to dive a little deep in here. So right now I'm going to turn over to Paul and let him tell us a little bit about himself, and we will get right down to it. So Paul, take it away a little bit. Give us some detail about yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Bobby. So, yeah, my name is Paul Sutt. I am currently a sword maker and getting back into acting again. I've been doing blacksmithing for 20 plus years. It's my passion. I absolutely love doing it. I just recently was on an episode of Forged in Fire on the History Channel, and that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to being on that show again in the future. Now I'm pursuing acting again, trying to get back into that. I used to do that years ago. I was in a few little films, and it was a lot of fun, but I was younger then, and the industry was a lot different than it is now. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. Of course, I'm also an effects artist. I've been doing effects in films for 30 plus years. All kinds of different costumes for films and props and monsters and suits and blood gags and squib effects and just all kinds of different things like that. So I've really been tried to stay kind of relevant in the industry one way or another, just because it's a lot of fun. And of course, you mentioned the cosplay. Love to do that. I love to model. Costumes, shows, modeling, all to me is all part of the entertainment aspects of life, which is my passion once again, and just try to have as much fun as I can.
Okay. All right. So, well, you mentioned in there, obviously, the cosplaying, but let's start with the creative part, because you just mentioned blacksmithing for 20 years. And as I could see behind you, we have a wall of swords. So dive into that a little bit and let's hear about that.
Well, growing up, of course, I grew up in the 80s, and, I was a young kid, but man, Conan the Barbarian, Beastmaster, those fantasy sorcerer films from the 80s, I loved those as a kid. They were so much fun. And as I was growing up a little bit in the early 90s, a friend of mine said, that he knew someone who was an apprentice for a blacksmith that was making swords and weapons for Ren fairs. And I thought, wow, that is amazing. He said, you ought to talk to this guy. So I jumped on it right away and got to know him and went up to the forge, got to meet the head blacksmith and such. They used to make swords for several different Ren fairs for the reenactors that take part to do sword fights. And then also we would go to Ren fairs, set up a little blacksmithing area, and we would do demonstrations for people, and we'd make swords and knives right there that then we would sell at the different shows. Okay. And oh man, that was so much fun. Love that whole immersive, fun Ren Fair feeling of dressing up and playing characters and so much fun. And the chance to actually hammer steel and to show what we do. It was just a great several years. We did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then as life often happens, things change. The head blacksmith had some health problems, and unfortunately it led to his retirement. So then for 20 years, I really didn't do any blacksmithing. Every once in a year or so, I'd make a knife and just do a little bit, but I didn't really have a good facility, a blacksmithing setup. So my dad, God rest his soul, when he was still alive, he asked me, tell me about what a blacksmithing table is. I mean, how does this work? And I explained it to him. Lo and behold, he done made me one. Made a beautiful table, perfect. He was an amazing man. He could do anything. So he built me this blacksmithing table. When I blacksmith, I learned he was the guy I learned from was actually a Civil War reenactor. He learned to smith as the Civil War time period, in that Civil War time period, and that's how we learned. So I smith with charcoal, actually hardwood lump charcoal. That's pretty much what they've been using for thousands of years. And that's the way I do it. So I forge in an old-fashioned historical way. So Dad made me this table. I started to blacksmith a little bit again, and started making more knives. Usually as fast as I can make them, somebody buys them up. So I would make one, put it up on Facebook, show some people, it's gone right away. So when the Forged in Fire casting came around, I was like, you know what? I'm a little rusty, but life is too short to hold back. So I went for it, and they took me on the show right away. And again, put me on a Civil War battle was the episode I was on, which I'm sure had a lot to do with the fact that I learned from a Civil War blacksmith reenactor. So now, prior to this whole COVID thing happening, I was pretty much working different fields, personal trainer and teaching martial arts and stuff. And once COVID happened, all that came to a crashing halt. And I started blacksmithing full time at that point. And I'm still, now I have so many orders, I'm just always trying to stay ahead of the orders that I have.
Okay. So you were on Forged in Fire. How long ago were you on Forged in Fire now?
Well, my episode, it aired May 5th, was the first time it aired. They repeat the airings a lot. So it's on every now and again on Wednesday or so on the History Channel. It'll replay. But my episode, it actually played on May 5th, was the first airing of the episode. Season 8, episode 20, Civil War battle. It was a ton of fun, a lot of fun to do.
I mean, I saw the episode after the fact. I didn't watch it the day it aired, but I saw it afterwards, and I'm just like, I always knew he was into this cool stuff, but watching him on TV doing it was awesome. You did great on the show, and the sword you made was pretty damn awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. It performed excellent in the kill test. So I chopped that thing to shreds. And there's a lot that happens on the show that they don't show you. One of which was when Doug slashed the thing after he was done, the guts fell out of the thing, and that was a highlight to see that. And he turned around and looked at it, and he looked back at the camera, or looked back at me and said, "This is a killing machine." And I so wanted that to air, but they must have edited that particular clip out. But it was amazing. Lives on in my memory.
That's okay, but now everybody's going to hear that there were guts on the floor from the show, right from the mouth who was there.
I sliced that thing up real good. It was a lot of fun. In fact, I have
yes, let's see some of the stuff you have here. Show us.
When I was on the episode, one of the things that they had us do in the first challenge was make what's called an Arkansas toothpick, 13 inches long. And after I got home, I had to recreate that because unfortunately I wasn't able to keep the one that I made in 5 hours. Okay. But I wanted to recreate one. So I did this one in 5 hours after I got home so I could have a memento of what I did on the show. And that was a fun one. I like to make things like this is more of the style that I prefer to make.
That's a badass knife.
Thank you. And it's fully functional. This thing is battle ready. And I love this is my own design. Love that kind of video game fantasy, yet functional.
Yeah.
A lot of people sell wall hangers. They're machine pressed swords. They're not really combat usable. And, some people don't understand what the combat usable means or why anybody would want in today's day and age a battle ready type sword. But, you're obviously not going to war with it. And but it's nice to have that historical, accurate, real thing, the way it was done thousands of years. That's what is special about blacksmithing to me, to be able to recreate something from the past as it was made in the past. A lot of modern steel is, they have so many different kinds. You can go on, Amazon and buy a sword for $100, but you could never do anything with it other than hang it on the wall.
Right.
I like to make videos where I chop all kinds of things up. I like to show the swords and what they can do. This is a Viking sword that I did. I put runes on it. This was actually, there was a sword found in a Viking grave that was several hundred years old. And they did a kind of a spectral analysis on it. And in that, they saw there were runes on the sword. I think you can probably see them.
Actually, yes, you can. You could see it pretty yeah, you could see them pretty clear. They shine nice in the light. Yeah, there they are.
A tough thing to photograph swords with the shines on them. But this is an exact recreation of that sword that was found in the Viking grave. Exactly the same size, the same weight, everything I did to make it perfect as it was. To me, that's fun. I really enjoy that. That to be able to make things like that. And then, of course, here's another one that I did. This is my Beastmaster sword. Now, in early 80s, there was a movie called The Beastmaster.
It's a great movie.
Love that film. When I was a kid, that was I love animals. I'm a huge animal lover. And in the movie, the character, the Beastmaster, obviously had several different animals that he was linked to. And it's just a great movie. If you haven't seen the Beastmaster, go check it out. It's just a ton of fun. And to me, I always wanted to remake, I should say, the sword from the movie. It was made by an absolute genius sword maker. And I love that sword. To me, that was a special sword. So this one I made for myself. It's all made of a high carbon steel. I've done several videos of chopping different things apart: fish, chickens, ropes, jugs of water, anything I can find that I can cut up. I love to chop up on videos. So it's just a lot of fun. I enjoy having a good time.
That sword alone is a beauty. Everything that you have shown here are really great pieces of work.
This is
to say the least.
More while we're at it, this is a custom sword that I did. This thing, I call it my war sword, and
that's wicked. Oh my God!
Yeah. So this is one of my original designs that I did. It has a great long handle, solid one piece, all made of high carbon steel. This thing, you can hold it like a baseball bat. You can hold it one-handed. This is an amazingly fun sword to play with and wield.
I think that's an understatement of saying it's an amazingly looking sword and definitely a beast in itself. Look at that thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little tough getting it. There we go.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Definitely more of the style that I love to do. And again, this thing, some people would think, well, historically, this isn't an accurate historical sword. But this is usable. If you showed up 300 years ago on the battlefield with this sword, people would run.
I think run would be an understatement. They'd be like, I think we're just going to be done, and that would be it. But that is a beautiful piece.
Thank you. I do a lot of other things. Like I do regular style hunting knives. I've just gotten into doing Kydex tactical type sheaths. And then, with like hunting knives and utility knives and things like that with the tactical sheaths. Just started doing those. They're a ton of fun. And different styles. I also do chef knives, different. But when I do a chef knife, I do it in a style of like a Viking knife. Like here's one. This is a chef knife that I did. And it's done in a style of the sax blades from history. It's a fun cooking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of guys that say, I do a lot of cooking. and I have friends over, and I want to have a knife that when I pull that thing out, my friends are go, "Oh, where the hell did you get that thing?" You know. So, hey, it's good to impress, and have something that looks spectacular. You want to show off in front of your friends and dice up some steaks or something. Well,
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. So for anybody who sees this and seeing it, you pick a knife and everything, and pick a knife and go from there. So I guess for a normal knife and or sword, for either one, about how long to take from you start to finish? I guess, yeah. Give us like a time frame, if you could, about how long does it take to do either a sword or a regular knife, like you showed.
The swords, there's a lot of different things that you can do that either change the price up on these things. The steel alone, I tend to use extremely high quality 1095 steel, high carbon stuff. It's like the best steel you can get. It produces amazing weapons. The steel sometimes runs a lot, sometimes just to make a sword, the piece of steel alone will cost $60 just before I do anything with it. Hard goods and handles, you throw on another $30. If you put brass on it, that brings the price up. Swords, I'll tell you, so again, to answer your question, the time it takes ends up reflecting on the price. I can make a sword if somebody's looking for something that they mostly just are looking to have to hang on the wall and look nice. I can knock that out in about 3 days or so, and I try to use less than the best quality stuff, because I can get lesser steels. They wouldn't hold up in combat, but they look beautiful.
Right.
Most of the time, though, people want the top end, highest. They want it to be battle ready. If they, if a bear attacks you, you're set with one of my things. Those are the higher end steels. I can, like this Viking sword that I showed you a little bit ago. I spent probably over at least 7 days working on this thing to get this done. Now, this started life as, we're looking at a 36-inch long sword. Originally, this started life as a block of steel that was about 2 feet long and about an inch thick. And I drew that piece of steel out. I hammered it down. It actually took me, I timed it. I spent 15 hours hammering this steel into the shape. I did it all with a hammer in hand, a 4-pound hammer, no machines. I did it the way it was done in old times. A lot of people have a press. A buddy of mine has a beautiful press, and he said, well, I could press that out in 3 hours. I said, sure, you could, but that's not the way I do things. I would rather do it all by hand. And so the time it takes, man, I'll tell you, I can spend a week putting detail and the etching and everything else. Now, these knives, more like the style knife.
Yeah.
I use a block of steel. I hammer it all out. I hammer the point in, and then I bevel out the edges and everything. But I can do a knife like this, in 6 hours. I can have it all finished up.
Okay.
Now the Kydex sheath, that'd take another couple hours to do that, an hour or two. But yeah, so I can get one of these done, or a couple in a day. Sometimes I'll do 5 or 6 similar knives like that all at the same time, and kind of go through all the steps of forging. Then they go after forging, so you hammer them all out to shape. Then it has to be hardened. You have to heat that blade up red hot and quench it in a quenching oil, a very special kind of oil that then what happens is it cools the blade so fast that it makes it very, very hard. It hardens that steel up. At that point, though, the steel becomes slightly brittle. If you were to harden this blade and drop it, it could break.
Right.
With hardness comes that brittleness. So at that point, you have to temper the steel. And that, by tempering it, it goes into an oven. Usually the way it works is it goes in an oven at 400 degrees for 2 hours. Then it comes out of the oven and has to cool for half an hour, and then goes back in again for another 2 hours at 400 degrees. And what that does is it takes a little bit of the hardness out and makes it more flexible. After that, the blade is ready to go. So, I go through a procedure to make these. I do them the way they were done, all hammered, all done by hand. The only modern tool that I actually use is my grinder. The old days of the foot pedal with the wheel that spins around.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line. I'm sorry, but
understandable. Yeah.
Modern times with the grinder. I also do a lot of this was a monkey wrench. You can see the monkey wrench and claws would come down. So I like to do things out of older tools. I make a lot of weapons and knives and war hammers and things like that. It all falls into that post-apocalyptic genre. I really love that. I love to do weapons that look like they came out of the Mad Max films and things.
Okay. So we got a good little lesson there on blacksmithing and your swords and knives. That's a wonderful thing to hear about. We don't get that very much.
More, I also shoot some videos under the banner of Forge Junkie. I have a YouTube channel. I don't do a lot of videos. I just do them for fun. To be honest, it's just, I've come to realize in life through all my years that it's, trying to enjoy things, having fun, enjoying life, doing the things you love is super important. Too many people push the things they love off. They don't. And, that's, again, cosplay and modeling and stuff. To me, it's just so much fun to do that. So even with the swords and the videos, sometimes I dress up and I do them in character, whatever. I do them for me more than anyone else. Just my thing. That's my jam.
If it's your jam though, but if people want to get to know it and they want to see it, they will absolutely go see it. So say that one more time, where the videos, where they can find you on YouTube. Say it one more time for me.
Thank you. It's a Forge Junkie, ForgeJunkie, Forge Junkie. I got a Facebook page for it as well, and the YouTube channel. A lot of fun.
So for those of you interested in the sword making process, and for that and his swords, go check him out there. And hey, if you want a sword, the man's right here. But we'll be getting to that a little later. So he just mentioned, and you just mentioned, cosplaying, as I could see on the screen here, I'm sure there's a few others, is Freddy Krueger and Dracula. So now let's dive into the cosplaying. When did that become a fun thing to do? Because you and I have done plenty of shoots together as Freddy, Jason, and Michael. Dive into that rabbit hole a little bit.
Well, I was the kid that when I was 7 years old, I would tie a cape around my neck and run around as Superman. I would run around at night as pretending I was the Wolfman. No brothers, no sisters. Grew up in an area where my closest friend was 5 miles away. So I had to entertain myself a lot. Nobody to play with, So
right.
My imagination was it. I would just naturally love to do that. And that sort of just manifested into, costuming and making outfits and things like that. It's just been something I've been doing my whole life. I say I was cosplaying before cosplay was even a word.
Yeah,
It's true. I'm an old guy and I've been doing it forever. I started going to the cons when the cons started to happen. I was at some of the very first New York Comic Cons and things like that, and some of the different shows that are around my area, the tri-state, your area. I would go to all the shows I could go to. And, for a very long time, I was the only person dressing up. And, it felt kind of weird. But many a show I would go to dressed as something, and people would look at me, what the heck is wrong with him? And slowly, more and more people started to see why and to jump on the fun of what it is. So again, for me, when I started, I was all about, like, I was Mr. I have to make everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that leads me into the special effects things. I started to do special effects. I was really lucky growing up that I've had some really good friends that helped me a lot. I was friends there for many, many years and worked with Tom Savini, an absolute amazing makeup effects artist, one of my heroes growing up. For anyone that doesn't know, Tom Savini was a protege of Dick Smith, which was one of the greatest makeup effects artists of all time, who did like The Exorcist and revolutionary stuff. And then Tom went on to do like the Friday the 13th, the first one, and also part 4, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, The Prowler. And then he's just an amazing guy. They call him the godfather of gore. He went on to direct George Romero film, the remake of the 1990 Night of the Living Dead, which was awesome. He did a great job as that and in that, and went on to be an actor. Most notably, my favorite part that Tom ever did was Sex Machine.
Yeah.
Tarantino's Dust to Dawn. That part was iconic.
I mean, that gun alone that he had fit the role perfectly.
Yeah, it was just amazing. Tom was a great guy, and he taught me a ton of things. I went on to take that and, and then all the costuming and stuff. And I ended up having a pretty good run with makeup effects. I still do things. My very close friend, Jerry Constantine, who has an effects business in Burbank, California called Constantine Effects, an amazing artist. Literally one of the greatest artists I've ever met in my entire life. He's an incredible guy and a fantastic friend, best friend you could ever hope for. And I work with Jerry on a lot of projects. He brings me in and, if there's certain things that need to be done related to leather work or costuming or something like that, then that's my expertise. I do a lot of that stuff and weapon making. I also did squids.
Okay.
The bullet hits and things. I was one of the first to develop a pneumatic system, an air-powered system for bullet hits that eliminated the need for gunpowder. So on a lot of movies, I would come in and I would do the pneumatic squibs and things like that. And if anybody's interested in just what I did, you could just look on IMDb. My page is up there with all the movies I've done. And I've done some acting. When I was younger, I was a big part of a movie that just recently came out. It was a really fun little movie that was shot back in the 90s, the mid 90s, when I was in doing a lot more effects. And I was hired to act in the movie. And then they found out they had an effects artist and they weren't happy with him. And I jumped in. I could do the effects, for this. And next thing you know, they gave me the effects job on that project. I did. So I ended up acting in it, doing the effects. I ended up doing a graphics for it and a lot of other different things. I was sort of a associate producer. We filmed this thing all shot on real film, cost a fortune back then. But back in the 90s, there wasn't an online presence like today.
Right.
There were no streaming shows. Your options to sell something were either theatrical, HBO, Cinemax, Netflix wasn't there. There was no Netflix. There was nothing like that. So we shot this movie. It never came out. And a few years ago, the producers contacted me and said, we're thinking about trying to get this movie back out. We've been sitting on it all these years. And now with the way things are, so I helped film a few scenes. We did a really clever little thing where we had a podcast in the beginning. We brought back one of the characters that survived from the movie and didn't even do any old age makeup on him. He already looked perfect. And he filmed a scene where we did a podcast where he talks about what had happened. And within that, then we cut and, segue to the actual movie. And then at the end, it cuts back into the podcast again to kind of bookend the fact that this movie was made a long time ago. And we had a lot of fun getting that done. And now that's up. It's on Amazon. It's called Masked Mutilator. And it's a fun movie. It's crazy. It's more of a slasher film, but a lot of whodunit kind of mystery thing. Like I said, it's on Amazon. It's on several other streaming services, but I know it's on Amazon. And it has there's like pro wrestling in it. There's a lot of fighting, martial arts, some gore. Just a ton of fun. A lot of good times making that.
All right. So for those listening, those who will be seeing this, it's called The Masked Mutilator. Find it on Amazon and a few other streaming services as well. What year did you guys do that? Do you remember the year that you were working on it?
94, I believe. Okay. 94 into 95, I think, is when we actually shot the initial footage, shot everything, made the original movie. And then it didn't, we only released it a year or two ago. It sat basically, back in the old days when they would shoot things on actual film, it had to be kept in a cold storage facility. So for 20 years, this footage all sat on reels of film in a cold storage facility specifically designed for that sort of thing. And we had to have everything transferred to digital. We had a really amazing Italian composer come in and rescore the entire movie. We really went to a lot of trouble to bring it up and really make it something special.
Okay. So we're going to have to check that out then, everybody. That sounds so. You said you did the effects and you acted in it. So I guess without giving too much away, since it was only released a year ago or two, I guess what were some of the effects that you did work on that I guess you could kind of get into specifically, maybe?
Well, we didn't want at the time to go too over the top with it being like a gore fest. We were really trying to focus more on sort of an Alfred Hitchcock style of a mystery, who did it. And but we did some really good stuff. We have bodies being dismembered, of course. I mean, what kind of movie would it be without that?
Sometimes you need a little dismemberment.
You have to have a little dismemberment. We have people getting crushed, and that's always fun. Crushing is good. There's a few that are just violent. There's a scene where, it kind of touches some levels where the killer actually strangles a girl to death kind of slowly. And that's pretty, no gore in that at all, but it's deep, it's like when you see that, it makes you feel something.
Right. It's meant to have that. It's meant to have that effect to it.
One of the best ones is now spoiler alert here. So, mute the TV for 10 seconds if you don't want a spoiler. But when my character in the film's name is Jake. And when Jake meets his demise, he gets his head smashed in repeatedly on a beam and opens up a big slit and blood pouring out. He basically cracks the skull open and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. All the murder scenes in the movie are based on pro wrestling moves. So again, without giving too much away, but this is the basics. The Masked Mutilator, it ties in a lot with an ex-wrestler who adds that. So when in his kills, he tends to do it with his hands. He tends to get messy and want to kill people with his hands. We got some great some bones breaking, people getting mauled pretty bad.
It's okay. That sometimes the hands-on kills, we said before, like with the choking, they just add an effect because you don't think of the human hands being able to really have power or that much power behind them. So when you put that into a horror film of any kind of caliber, it really has a good lasting effect on it, I would certainly say.
Well, I'll tell you, the writers on that were Dale Schneck and Ed Polgardy, Ed Polgardy just had a big #1 movie, was #1 in the box office for months during the COVID thing. Amazing guy. He's still out there making great horror films and doing different things. But when they wrote that, they had in mind doing something different. I mean, there's a lot of different movies, where slashers, like Jason the Machete. Well, Jason's a little different. In the early Jason movies, everything was a weapon to Jason. I really love that about him.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Michael Myers is more of a knife guy. Freddy's got the claws, it's kind of, but so when they did this, they wanted to break out of that. They wanted to do something more original, and just everybody was into pro wrestling. The director of the film goes by his stage name is Brick Bronski. Now Brick, he was in trauma films. He did a bunch. He was in the Class of Nukem Highs,
Okay.
Subhumanoid Meltdown and things like that. Great guy, and he was also a pro wrestler at one point. So Brick, we were immersed in the wrestling world when we did that.
Literally.
Yeah. We had several ex-wrestlers on there and everything that played parts, and it was a lot of fun. Very talented group of people.
And it sounds like a great little film you guys did. So yeah, Masked Mutilator, that's got to be checked out. Anybody who watches this and will see this, please go check out his movie. Find it on Amazon Prime to start.
Also, I got to give a shout out to Tom Taylor, who was like the main character in the film. When we did the podcast, Tom is the one who came back in. He was the hero character of the film. He's the one that survived, So
Right.
It was perfect. And Tom, amazing martial artist. He does some martial arts stuff in there that's still to this day. And when we filmed that, a lot of the stuff, these guys were not. Let me rephrase that. They were some seriously tough dudes. So when they were doing the scenes, they were like, "Come on, lay it in." We need it to look real. You need to hit me hard.
Right.
And so they were laying hits in. They were Tom. Threw a kick, hit the dude in the throat, almost took him out at one point. They were really into making it as real as possible. There many a time, like Brick, his whole chest was black and blue for days after some of these scenes we did. We did one. If you're a wrestling fan, you're familiar with chair shots. Well, they'll put a aluminum chair and crack them over the back or something. And we didn't use a light little aluminum chair. They took a real old school folding chair and beat the hell out of each other to the point they were sore for days to make sure it was legit and it looked real. The folding chair just looked too fake in the movie. So they were like, "No, it's okay. I got a chair for you." It's like, what? That thing weighs 20 pounds. What the hell, man? That's okay. Go ahead. Lay it in. I want it to look good.
You suffer for the art to make it look good, as many people would say. So that's what they did. But hey, I'm sure it came out great on screen.
Oh, yeah. And Tom, again, amazing martial artist. He's the action star of the movie, and he's just a great guy and amazing actor on every front. So I just had to give him a shout out.
Absolutely.
Again, huge. He was a producer. He was a main player in getting that movie done. So Tom definitely needs props.
Tom, when you see this, if you're out there, you hear your buddy Paul Sutt getting you on the show here, my man.
Always.
So let's now cut a little more into that cosplay, because that man was, I'm looking at you to your left, that Freddy Krueger head there. How long have you been doing Freddy Krueger, and what made you want to do Freddy Krueger as a cosplay?
Wow. I guess the Freddy thing came about in sort of a slow kind of way. Again, I'm like 5'10", so I'm a funny guy when it comes to certain things. I'm real particular. I love Jason. Jason's my favorite slasher. I mean, really, Friday the 13th, the movies, they're the bomb. They're my favorite of all the whole horror slasher movies. I'm old school. I like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
tilt this over this way a little bit.
Oh, look at that. You got Wolfman Dracula. Oh.
Yeah. But so I love the old school stuff. But Jason, man, that's I grew up watching the early Friday the 13th, so it blew my mind. Freddy, I love Freddy, especially like the first movie. I really love the first movie. The third movie are my favorites. I also love the Jason versus Freddy versus Jason movie, Jason versus Freddy, whatever the hell it's called. I love that one. The way they portrayed Freddy in that, I just think is phenomenal. So again, though, I'm not tall enough to play Jason. To me, to be a Jason, you need to be like have that height.
Right.
So, I know a lot of people are when it comes to cosplay, they're like, don't let your body type get in the way of that. But in my mind, I'm also an actor. So I'm a cosplayer because it's fun, but deep down, really, I'm an actor that wants to do things, play parts.
Right.
Freddy was a natural pick for me. I like the character. I like his personality is great. It matches mine in the sense of the comedy aspects of Freddy, the sarcasm that he says and everything. So Freddy had a lot to do with body type and what I thought I would do good as an actor. So, but then I had to do it all the way. I couldn't just do it a little bit. So I had this mask. It's a silicone mask. It's custom made. It's wonderful. It's my baby. The hat, of course, I had Dave Miller who did the hats for the film. Actually, luckily, because I'm do effects, I was able to reach out to him and get an actual hat that he did. My sweaters are all custom made by this wonderful woman in Italy who hand knits all the sweaters herself. She's done them for the movies. She started off, she used to make Kurt Cobain sweaters for Nirvana. And,
really?
Yep. And Kurt asked for a Freddy sweater, and she did the Freddy sweater, and he would wear that. There's actually video of him playing concerts wearing a Freddy sweater. And that got the attention of other people. And the next thing you know, she's doing them for the movies. It's the most expensive sweater I ever bought. It's all Himalayan Angora. It's the most beautiful sweater in the world. And of course, as soon as I get it, I have to cut it up and burn it and make it look.
But it's the process. I've been there, done that. It's the process.
Yep. My gloves, my Freddy gloves, are made by Anders Ericsson, who is, the man to make Freddy gloves. Robert Englund talks about his gloves. He uses them. In fact, there's what the heck is that show? What was that called now? Comic book show.
I know the show you're talking about, but I can't get the name. Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on what the name is now. Comic Book Men? Was that it?
Yeah. Comic Book Men, I believe. Yes, yeah. It was on AMC, wasn't it?
Right. And there's an episode where Robert Englund actually comes in and brings one of these gloves and gives it to the one guy on the show and talks about the guy that does them. He does amazing gloves. Absolutely incredible gloves. So, I take a great pride in the Freddy. That to me isn't a cosplay. That's a full-blown way of life right there.
I've seen you multiple times in the Freddy gear. You've seen me multiple times in the Jason. So I firmly agree that, it's not just a character. You have to be in it to win it, to make it look real. And to say you make it look real is an understatement. It's like you put the mask on, your voice changes. Thank you.
That's what I try. I'm working now to try to get things in place that I can do a type of fan film, if you will. I want to do a short little Freddy thing for Halloween this year. So I'm trying to get that together and get it ahead done in time that it can come out early October. So hopefully, we could get something going on to do some kind of short. I've been wanting to do a little film for YouTube, something small, 5-10 minute little thing, just because it's fun to do. But I'd love to be able to actually portray Freddy and have some fun putting something out for Halloween.
That would be awesome to see. So for those who tune in, stay tuned. Keep an eye out. You never know what may be coming from Mr. Paul Sutt for October. So, so what other characters? Like I said, you're big into the Freddy. Like I said, I love it. We both have proof of it, obviously, all over Facebook, and I have it on Instagram as well. What other characters have you done? I know you love to dive into Mad Max, which you pull off very well. What else? Mad Max, a few others. Go give us a little bit more. What other ones you do?
Yeah, well, again, the Mad Max thing, I'm involved in this group that goes to the show every year, Wasteland Weekend. And we recreate the characters from Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. So there's several different ones I do from there. The Dogs of War and everything, several different characters. And then, of course, I also have a couple of the different Mad Max costumes from the first movie, from the second movie, from the third movie, and from the fourth movie. So I guess I got it all pretty much Mad Max covered. I like.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's kind of my fun thing. I do a couple of old school, like I doing a photo shoot as the Phantom of the Opera. That's always a fun thing. I love that classical take on the characters. So sort of doing that. What else? I've done a lot of original kind of things. Where like I just did one recently in this full done voodoo kind of character that I just did. Of course, then I was in the different costuming groups. I'm a Tusken Raider in the 501st and the Rebel Legion. So I have a Tusken Raider costume for that. I have a Boba Fett costume from Empire Strikes Back. And then I also have a custom Mandalorian costume that I did called an Executioner Mandalorian, and was into Mandalorian mercs for a long time and would wear that out. And of course, I'm in the G.I. Joe costume group as well. I'm Zartan in the that, which I absolutely love. He's my favorite character. I do a very 1980s retro Zartan from a Real American Hero cartoon. And in fact, if you want a nice laugh, you can go check out a video that I made a couple of years ago, like a little fan film called Cold Slither. It's a G.I. Joe fan film where in the original cartoon, Cobra enlists Zartan and the Dreadnoks to record a heavy metal song with subliminal messages in it that will make the minds of the youth obey Cobra, of course. And that was in the cartoon, but I took that and I decided I needed to do a real live version of it. So I got all my G.I. Joe friends together and I recorded. I spent 2 months analyzing, re-recording all the music myself. I played 8 different instruments on that. I did all the singing on that. I recorded about 6 different vocal tracks and then put them all on top of one another to give it a particular effect that was reminiscent of the cartoon. I worked so hard on that, and then I got all my friends together on what was probably the hottest day of the year.
I'm sure they loved you for it too.
Oh, yeah, you can't even imagine. And we filmed this video, and of course we couldn't have the air conditioner running because when we ran the air conditioner in the studio, a very good friend of mine, Joe Chapman, let us borrow. He has the most amazing facility in Allentown. They created sets there that just are mind-blowing. And he allowed us to come in and shoot at his studio and use his facility. It was just such an awesome thing to allow us to do. And but every time we turned the air on, it would blow the lights out. So we did it all without a bit of air. One of my very, very close friends, Jim the Tank Dorsey, who played Road Pig and had to play the drums. I'll tell you, that man puts everything into it. And when he's banging on these drums and there's sweat flying, there was like a wet puddle 3 feet all around him. Again, the I'm so fortunate to have such good people in my life that I'm friends with that will do these crazy things with me. Uh, but Jim's a great guy. He also does Lord Humongous. He's amazing. 90% of the pictures you see of Lord Humongous from Mad Max 2 on the internet are actually him. He looks identical to the amazing actor who actually was a world class bodybuilder
Oh,
back in
wow.
the early 80s. Yeah. The actor that did Mad Max, amazing guy, awesome guy. And Tank looks just like him, when he does this. He's just an amazing actor.
Boy, talk about a lot of exposition, a lot of good stuff in that one. So what's the
Yeah.
name of that? What's the name of that little film again?
Cold Slither.
Cold
Cold
Sweat.
Slither.
And that
G.I.
can be that can be found on YouTube, yes?
Yes, sir. It's on YouTube. I'm trying to think if it's on. It's probably just YouTube is the best bet. Type up Cold Slither, it comes up. Or you could type my name in. It's tagged in there as well. A GI Joe fan film. It usually comes up with that. And there's a Facebook page for it as well.
So if any of you GI Joe fans out there, go give it a check it out. Tell them what you think of it. Go look it up.
That's me doing the Zartan. In the GI Joe group, I also do Snake Eyes. Okay. Yep, and I used to do a character named Dusty, one of the good guys. But so those, let's see. There's a couple weird things that I like to do out of just because I love them. Nobody knows what the hell they are. I go to a show dressed as this, and people look at me. They have no understanding. Now, one of the ones, though, that I really love is from a movie called Psychomania that came out in the 70s. It's a British film. And it's sort of a spin on The Living Dead, where these bikers commit suicide and then come back to life as like powerful versions of themselves. Not really zombies, but just unstoppable. Whole thing has a great, crazy, packed with Satan vibe to it and everything. So that's one of the cosplays that I really love, but nobody but 5 people in the world know what the hell I'm doing, But again, I do it for me more than anything else.
That's the exact point of it. With cosplay, you do it for you. So what if somebody doesn't know what it is? I mean, me, I've only dabbled in a few, that Michael, Jason, Terminator, and a few others. I'm trying to branch out myself, but if it looks cool, it doesn't matter where it came from, as long as you enjoy it and someone says, that's fucking cool. That's awesome.
One of my favorite, I did it an absolutely awesome show. If anybody on the East Coast, RetroCon comes out in September, it's a fantastic show. Again, run by awesome people. Rosemary, she's in the GI Joe Club. She's my sister in that. She was in. She's just an awesome person, and they do the show out of love because they're fans. Those are the best shows when you have fans putting together shows not to make money, but because they love what they're doing. Those are the shows that I love the most. And when we did the whole RetroCon last time, I did one of my favorite costumes with my wife and my little dog. We went as a super family. So I cosplayed. I did Superman. My wife did Supergirl. My little dog did Crypto.
That's so cool.
Yeah, one of the most fun shows we ever did. All the different celebrities. The dog is a little itty bitty little Morton. So to see, he's the cutest little thing in the world. So it's always fun. Bringing an animal, a pet like that places always brings out the best in people. Oh, look at the cute little dog. Oh, I love him.
That's the first thing they say when they say it's like the cute little dog and it's the superhero fan. That needs to be a photo shoot with you, your wife, and the dog. That family, yes.
And even though, I got the long hair going, I'm not exactly Superman, but, I rock it. I have fun with it. I enjoy it.
You could, listen, if you could rock it, do it. Come on, you know the drill. So I guess let's also see, you've been to plenty of cons. What were some of your favorite ones to go to, whether you dressed up or you were just there as a regular Patreon?
Well, again, love the horror stuff. So to me, years and years ago, I guess 30 years ago at this point, there was a little show I heard about, and I was like, what, really? There's a show called Chiller Theater. And it was the first year it started up. And I thought, oh my gosh, a show where you can, based on horror movies and things, I got to check this out. So that I went there dressed as a vampire and won the very first costume contest they ever had. And it was sort of a biker vampire thing, a lot of fun. So that, and then there's another one on the East Coast again in New Jersey called Monster Mania. Now, Chiller has more or less turned into a pub culture show. They cover a lot of different things. Horror is still part of it, but it's more of a pop culture show. Mm-hmm. But I'm going, and I know everybody there. I know the people that run that. I'm fortunate enough to be called Chiller Family. And that to me, touches me old heart. So that is one of my all-time favorite shows. It's a great time, and the people there are all my friends. Monster Mania, a guy, that I know really well, Dave runs that show, and it's an amazing show. That's focused more towards horror. Always go to that. I've gone to that dressed as zombie. I've done vampires at that show. I've done Wolfman at that show, different things like that. And Negan, I love Negan, from
you do that very well.
Thank you. It's just a super fun one. The character itself, when you're at the show, it's just people love to play off that, and then of course you can always break into the lines. You got the baseball bat over your shoulder, eeny, mine, it's fun. People just love it. And then when you see someone else dressed as Negan, it's like, my Negan. I'm Negan, we're all Negans. But yeah, a lot of fun. Boy, what other things have I done at that show? I've done Frankenstein. I have an awesome Frankenstein, not exactly a traditional. It's a silicone mask, though, a really nice one that I've gone as Frankenstein. I may have even done one of the cosplays I've done a bunch is the Red Skull. I actually have.
Yes, I've seen you that in a couple of times at the show, but at the time I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, the Red Skull. He's a lot of fun. Again, silicone mask. That really moves with your face, and it's just awesome. And the costume and everything. And as I was saying, I actually have one of the rifles from the movie that they used on screen, one of the Hydra rifles. And that it's just an amazing piece. When you walk in, it lights up and does all these things. As soon as you walk in with that, you're the center of attention at that point.
It's immediate attention right there.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of different ones. I've done Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. Oh man, I know there's a couple that I'm like big ones that I can't think of right now, but yeah, just love doing cosplays and dressing up and pretending to be different characters.
It's always a fun time. I enjoy it myself. Both shows, like you just said, Chiller and Mania. Chiller, I've only been to a handful of times. Mania was my main, and probably still is my main home show. Has been since the start. Well, no, I missed the first show. My first show was in 2005, and I've been going ever since.
Yeah, amazing, good time down at Cherry Hill.
To watch a show grow.
Yeah,
literally from now, was it 15 years ago now?
Yeah,
I watched it from. It wasn't a tiny show, but it wasn't huge at the time. But then to watch it grow into what it has become, they do a fantastic job down there. Chiller is always fun. I started going to that with my uncle, so that never gets old.
RetroCon, that's a different kind of show, more pulp culture superhero kind of feel to it. A lot of costuming groups, the Finest, that's the G.I. Joe costuming group. They're always a big presence there, and those guys are great. 501st, the Rebel Legion, the Mandalorian Mercs. I at a point it was like, oh my God, I have to be in all these groups. They're all awesome and they're so much fun. And it was always a goal. And then like a Tusken Raider, I've always loved that particular character. But I'll tell you, it's the hardest thing to cosplay because you can only see through two little holes. But yet, just moving around, you have to kind of look around and make sure you don't run anybody over. You
Yeah.
know, kids come up to you and you can't even tell they're there.
Yeah. Next thing you're walking, it's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I just,
Sorry about that.
you know,
Because you get because you get the tunnel vision.
yep. You can't see anything below you, or to the sides. That's the secret to why Tuscan Raiders always travel in a straight line, because they can't see anything other than what's directly in front of them.
There you go. So RetroCon will have to be one I have to check out with some Jason or Michael Love then.
Absolutely, now that's in Oaks, PA.
I've heard of it, but like I said, I've never been. So I was just going to say, where is that show?
For anybody that doesn't know, Oaks, PA, it's a little bit north of Philadelphia. Fantastic, definitely one of the most fun shows. The crowd that shows up, the costumes, the atmosphere, everything about that. Again, done by people that just love doing it. It's a con done out of love. I tend to shy away from a lot of the bigger New York Comic Con and some of the other ones of Philadelphia and everything, because to me, I hate to see what I feel as shows that gouge the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's all about love and when I see corporations coming in and all they care about is money, it turns me off. So anymore, we used to do when I was in the 501st and the Mandalorian Mercs, a lot of those shows would let us have a table and we would raise money for children and things, children hospitals and St. Luke's and different things. And at a point, we were bringing in a lot of money for those organizations. And then the big Comic-Con groups decided, that we could no longer have a free table. And they started charging us and everything. And really all it did was take money away, from us being able to donate it. And I always thought, personally, that rubbed me the wrong way. So a lot of the other shows I don't even bother with anymore. I tend to go for the shows, like I said, that people love to do because they love to do them.
Right. I do completely agree. I've never been to the New York Comic Con. I feel that's a show that you do, well, for me, you do one time, be like, okay, I did it. I've been to the Philadelphia Comic Con a couple times. Even though, like I said, haven't done New York. Of the two, the Philadelphia one is a lot more personable. It's not as even in that big space as compact, because it's basically you need to move in straight lines. But if the smaller shows just always resonate better.
Yep.
Because like you said, people love to do them. You're going to get fans who love them. Those are always the best ones. No disrespect to the big shows. The smaller ones, just they have that atmosphere to it.
Absolutely. So that's what I like. And of course, I really enjoy photo shoots, and to me that's like a movie thing, where you can have I'll tell you, you and I both we've done some absolutely amazing pictures together. Our Freddy and versus Jason photos, if anybody hasn't seen them, you should check it out, because Bobby by far is the best Jason I've ever seen. I mean, he not only does he have the absolute perfect physique, the size, the right length of body, like everything is proportionate, perfect to Jason. And big dude, strong, but he knows the part. So he becomes Jason when he does that, and I feel like some of the stuff that we've shot, movie quality pictures, and we're very, very lucky. We have some groups of photographers that we work with that are just,
that's a long list.
Yeah.
But it's a great list.
It is, and we're so fortunate to have them and to have each other, to play off of and everything. Just that, to me, that is so much fun. And it's a little bit different. A con is one thing. The photo shoots are a little bit different. Acting in something is another thing, but
right.
Well, I'll tell you, they are that's just how I want to spend the rest of my life. I don't care how old I get. As I get older, I'll just gravitate to older parts. I'm good with it.
That's okay. I mean, listen, I mean, the cosplay for me will always be part of the horror. I mean, everybody knows, anybody who has seen me on the other shows, I'm a horror nerd.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. I love my movies too, though I need to branch out a lot more, but that'll always be part of my life, no matter what my main career is, which is what I'm working on now. But the cosplay and the movie stuff, that'll always be there. So yeah, I would always love to do photo shoots in spare time, so I know we said we need to do one eventually. We need to do a nice night one. I got a couple of things I'm working on now. They're coming sporadically along with a few other things, but when they're done, and they'll be the quality that I want them to be. And I know you will be the same way.
Yeah. You and I are the same way, that we hold ourselves, as I was telling you about the Freddie thing.
Mm-hmm.
We hold our standards to the highest levels, absolutely. And everything has to be perfect, or else it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And, that's just the way we are. But I love that. And I love that about you, it's just a lot of fun to be involved with somebody like yourself who takes it the same way that I do. It's for fun, but we take our fun very seriously.
Yes, listen. I have thrown costumes away.
Yeah,
I took one look at it and said, "Nope, that's no good."
Yeah,
start over. But it's the fun and the art. Yes, it's time consuming. Yeah, it's costly, but when it comes together after a while, it's got to look good, and then when it looks good, it just makes it 10,000 times better.
And you'll have that for the rest of your lives. The thing, as I've come to realize it, to do things like this is an amazing thing to look back on later. It brings back memories. It reminds you of the good people, the good times, the fun you had doing it. So will it lead to anything? Is anybody going to see me as Freddy Krueger and say, I got to put him in a movie? Who the hell knows? I don't care. I'm doing it for me because it's what I love. It's what I enjoy. It's what I want to have to look back on later. And to say, I did the things that I love to do in life. And really that's important.
I don't think I could agree more. You said it 100%. And thank you also for the compliment. I don't think you could say it any better way. Just there's no way.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
So we're going to get wrapping up here. But Paul, where can the people find you if they do want maybe a sword or something? Where can they find your content? Where can they find you? Give them your information, or where your social media.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Instagram as Paul _ dog _ war. How confusing. So it's Paul Dog of War with underscores between all the words, And I put pictures up there. I have a Paul Sutt Instagram page where I post a lot of my cosplay stuff and modeling stuff. Facebook, of course, Paul Sutt under there. I have a page for the cosplay stuff and Forge Junkie. I'm all over YouTube and stuff. If you want to find me, I'm pretty accessible.
Anybody watching and or listening or will see this, go check him out. Go check out his content. You'll see plenty of things. Don't be afraid to say hello, especially now with his swords doing it. Like, you can't go wrong, guys. You saw the quality. He makes them by hand. Come on, give the man some love.
Thank you.
Well, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of The Machine Shop. If you want to hear and or see this episode, you want to go to Project Louder, where you can find tons of other podcasts like the Gore and More podcast, Fatality. You'll be able to find Wicked Wednesdays, obviously The Machine Shop here, along with Beetle Bros and so many other podcasts. So please give this episode a listen. Go give those shows a listen. Check out everything you can. And, go check it out. So I want to thank my friend, very good friend here, Paul Sutt, for coming on the show with me. Paul, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for watching.
So that is it. We will be signing off for this episode. So this is my friend, Paul Sutt. I am Bobby Amon, the Killing Machine. You can find me on Instagram and you can find me on Facebook. So come give us some love, and we'll catch you later. Bye, guys.